Spurs are through to the next round of the League Cup, and I'll be honest with you, Doncaster were way better than I expected them to be. They kept the ball on the deck much more impressively than Tottenham did, credit to them. But we were more ruthless and now face possibly the most difficult night game of all in the next round. Meanwhile, a leading Tory donor has invested big money into the club, and new transfer links are reported, with Thomas Frank also laying out the metaphorical red carpet for a Harry Kane return. All this and more on today's Daily Tottenham news. Guys, first of all, apologies if I'm talking a lot louder and also speaking more into my microphone today, but there is some very annoying drilling going on outside my flat. So that is why I'm probably going to be a little bit more covered visually today. But thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for all your support. As ever, do give this video a like. If you're on YouTube, do press that subscribe button. Also, I've been nominated for 2 awards in the Football Content Awards. If you like my stuff and want to give me a vote, I'd really appreciate it. All the details of how are in the description box below. But yes, starting with that draw after our 3-0 win against Doncaster last night, we have been drawn away to Newcastle, St James's Park, midweek game under the lights, the holders of the competition. For me, I'm not sure there could have been a harder draw because Newcastle will play their best team and Spurs will have to do the same if they want to try and get through. But to win these competitions, you've got to beat the best. And that'll be a huge game. Really good test with Thomas Frank as well. Think about how well he's done in those kind of big game tests so far. PSG in the Super Cup really nearly won that one, and Man City away at the Etihad. So I go into it with some positivity, with some confidence. But like I said, I think we could have got a much easier draw. Considered thoughts on last night's Doncaster game. Overall, I think a good professional performance. Key thing, no obvious injuries. It looked a little bit like Xavi Simons rolled his ankle under a firm, pretty late challenge in the first half, but he did come out for the second half, and I thought he looked good. I've been talking of him a lot as reminding me of a kind of young Christian Eriksen when he first got to the club and started growing with us. Just Simons wanting to get on the ball all the time. We saw a real difference between him and the likes of Sarr and Bergvall playing in that kind of more 8-10 position, and that he was dropping deep, just like James Maddison does. When he felt like he wasn't able to get on the ball and he was being asked to be too far forward, he would drop deep and go and get it off Jed Spence, go and get it off Kevin Danso. And that is what we're going to need. Someone to link the play a bit better, to be brave all the time, to take it on the half turn, and then also to get in really good positions. I also enjoyed his corners, not just the ones being put onto the goalkeeper like we're always asking him to do, but also finding Pedro Porro on the edge of the box to have a couple of really decent strikes, one of which was saved, one of which was blocked. Porro has a great strike on him. So if opposition defenses are naive enough to leave Porro free on the edge of the box, I think Xavi Simons will keep finding him and eventually will score from that. Obviously, I don't want to be too negative. We won 3-0. But it was a League One team, and I felt there was some drop-off in the second half. Thomas Frank alluded to that in his interview with the Tottenham media team after the game. I felt there was a little bit of complacency. We were 2-0 up at halftime. I think they thought that Doncaster wouldn't come back. And actually, in that certainly the first 10, 15, 20 minutes of the second half, Doncaster raised it and were much better than Spurs and could have had a goal. And so Tottenham just have to be a little bit aware of that kind of complacency, because I felt similarly in that Bournemouth game at home earlier this season. Matisse Tell will inevitably get a fair amount of stick from the Spurs fan base. Not all of the Spurs fan base, but probably more like the Spurs Twitter online fan base who are looking for a scapegoat at the moment. I think for me, Matisse Tell's just trying a little bit too hard. He lacks confidence at the moment, so he's swinging too hard at 2 of those chances, in which ended up as air shots. Didn't look good for him, but his movement was decent. He was getting in good positions, and Thomas Frank talked about that in his post-match press conference, which I'll get to later on in the episode. And I think Tell, like I've said before, he's a good young player. He will be fine, but we need to be very patient with him. Meanwhile, Polinia showing the benefits of bringing in a player who is ready now. And an excellent utility player. I think we all thought when we saw the team sheet yesterday, Archie Gray would be playing at centre-back, but no, it's Polinia, and he put in a sturdy performance. Really good, decent in the air, being brave, alongside Kevin Danso. And again, similar to Archie Gray, actually, I think Polinia is a lot more confident with the ball at his feet when he sees the whole of the pitch in front of him, when he's not having to take it on the half turn or facing his own goal. I thought Polinia drove forward really well with the ball and gave an excellent performance. Probably close to my man of the match yesterday, Pelini. Obviously, it was a really great overhead kick as well. He knew the keeper was out of position, so he knew he didn't have to try and put too much on it, and that showed the benefit of an experienced player. They just knew if he got it on target, that would be a goal. Kev Danso, alongside Pelini, fast becoming a favourite of mine. Puts his head and body on the line. He was my man of the match. Obviously, that flat, long throw he's got. I was talking about it in the watch along yesterday. It's kind of weird in that he takes quite a long run up for the long throw and then basically stops just before he's about to throw it. So all the momentum seems to be lost. But then he absolutely luzzes it so flat. Now, what I will say is probably suited the League One side yesterday because their centre-backs won every single one of those balls. But where things are a little more prissy in the Premier League, if Danso does play some of those games soon, that will be a weapon that will be hard to fight against in the Premier League. And you can see why Thomas Frank loves a long throw. He's the highest, percentage-wise, stats-wise, Thomas Frank is the highest scoring manager over the last few seasons from long throws. And in those kind of games where maybe we're playing a three at the back with Danso alongside Van de Ven and Romero, you can absolutely see that becoming a huge weapon. You just got to find the right players who are going to properly attack that ball. Maybe Christian Romero is the most likely one because he loves to get up early and get a good header on goal. I do think Thomas Frank got his selection right yesterday because, like I said in the opening, Doncaster were a very decent football team. Played it around well, nice little 1-2s, good triangles, always trying to keep the ball on the floor, not really playing it long into the channels that much, only when they were under pressure in the fullback areas. And I think if Thomas Frank had taken any liberties with his team selection last night, we might have got found out. So really pleased with Frank's decision-making. Clearly, they'd done their homework, him and the coaching team. And as a result, we got that decent 3-0 win. It was 3-0 in the end because Brennan Johnson got the last goal with pretty much the last kick of the game. Showing to me once again, and I'm sure he won't like this, but exactly why he may end up being the absolutely perfect super sub. He gives me Ole Gunnar Solskjaer vibes for people a bit older. A player who was the super sub for years for Manchester United and had no problem with it in terms of his personality. He knew what he was best at, and it was coming on, taking advantage of space and being an absolutely elite finisher. And that's where I can see Brennan Johnson doing his best work. There was an occasion yesterday on the right flank where he had space in front of him to run into. He'd got in behind the fullback, and that's where his pace really works for him. He's not an acceleration pace merchant. He's a player who can knock the ball into space and really chase it and gets really quick. And then his final ball is excellent as well. So I guess also not only being the super sub, but in games where it's likely the opposition's fullback is really going to push up on us, maybe that's where Brennan can take advantage too. But for that, I think what I want to see more from Brennan, I love Brennan Johnson. Of course I do. Johnson again, Ole, all of that. But he's got to improve his defensive output as well, helping out Pedro Porro. Because at the moment, realistically, Johnson is not getting in anywhere near that right flank with Mohamed Kudus's form, as it shows at the moment. And then on the other flank, Wilson Odobert, for me, again, showing more green shoots, showing that he is starting to grow into some form. I was screaming at him early in that game to get outside his man, take him to the byline on the left-hand side. He did that, and that's where the own goal came from. He did that against Brighton at the weekend, setting up a really good chance for the Bergvall, but good defending from the Brighton centre-halves. And if he keeps doing that, then what will happen is the defenders that he's playing against will start covering the outside, and that's when he'll really come into his own because he loves to cut inside and try and get a shot away or a little 1-2 in and out of the box. So, yeah, good green shoots for Wilson Odobert. Was very happy with his performance. And he was taken off relatively early, wasn't he? And I think that's probably because he may well start at home to Wolves at the weekend, as was Xavi Simons, so I'm sure will start maybe even in that 10 role if Odobert does play on the left. Okay, in terms of Thomas Frank's post-match press conference, he was asked what he made of the performance tonight. He said, first and foremost, happy with the win, happy with the clean sheet, and happy that we're through to the next round. That was the aim. I think the first half was good. We controlled the game, created chances that we wanted and needed. I think we could have scored more goals in the first half, actually. We had some big opportunities for Matisse Tell, for Rodrigo Bentancur, and a few other situations that were dangerous. The second half was more disjointed. I think we threw the ball away too easily. The pressure was not top, but also praise to Doncaster. They came very brave, very good to stretch us. So if the pressure is not perfect, they made it difficult. So praise to them as well. Again, another example for me, Thomas Frank saying exactly what I think. We gave the ball away far too easily second half. I was screaming during the watch along, by the way. If you want to watch me on Watchalongs and you're not already following me on BigUp, go across to BigUp. Details are in the description box below. I'm doing all Watchalongs for the Tottenham games over on BigUp. It's a really great platform. Come and join my community there. But yeah, Thomas Frank talking about it, giving the ball away too easily, a bit complacent on it. And I was screaming on the Watchalong. I was like, just keep the ball for a bit. They're 2-0 down. Make them come and press us hard. And then bang, 1, 2 passes, 3 passes, and you're through. But Tottenham weren't doing it. Again, they were just trying the paradise ball a bit too regularly, I thought, into kind of the Tell when he was playing centre forward, and then Richarlison, they weren't able to hold it up, or the centre-backs were getting in front of them. And it was just a little bit frustrating. And I do think 3-0 flattered Tottenham in the end, I have to say, because of that last kick of the game goal from Brennan Johnson. But again, the most important thing, Thomas Frank saying in his post-match interviews exactly what we're all thinking. It is a far cry from Big Ange Postecoglou and Antonio Conte and Nuno Espirito Santo and Jose Mourinho, who played little games, frankly, with the post-match press conference. And but Thomas Frank just saying it as it is. And again, you'll have heard me many times say this already, but an ace communicator. And I think it's that communication level, when you're at the top level, the players really appreciate more than anything. That will help get some of those marginal gains, little 1 and 2 percentage points of improvement and of better form from those players. He was also asked, you put Palhinha at centre-back and he scores a goal like that. What did you make of his performance? He said, very happy. He's been very good for us since he joined. Again, just stepping into that centre-back role and played very well and scored a very good goal. So, yeah, I'm pleased. I think it was a good decision playing him at centre-back because they had quite a physical front line, didn't they, Doncaster? And if there's one thing Jair Palhinha definitely has, if he's not the most comfortable always on the ball or playing, defence-splitting passes or line passes, he's a very physical player, really enjoys that physicality. Frank was asked why Pat Matasar was missing from the squad. He said it's just a minor precaution, a little stretch to the thigh, so we didn't want to take any risks today. There's a good chance that he could be ready for Saturday. I think with our options in central midfield, though, if there's any risk whatsoever, then I wouldn't risk Sarr on Saturday. Again, let's remember what happened last year with the injuries. Ange Postecoglou throwing players in far too early when they weren't fully recovered. Let's not do that again. We've got Bergvall, we've got Palhinha, we've got Archie Gray, we've got Rodrigo Bentancur, to name but 4 options. Xavi Simons, again, to make a 5th for the central midfield berths on Saturday against Wolves. So don't risk Sarr. Tell him, stay at home, get your thigh in an ice bath, chill out. You've had a great start to the season, have a little rest, and then when you're fully back and fit again, straight back in the team and playing that box-to-box role that you've done so excellently at the start of the performance. At the start of the season, sorry. Frank was asked, what did you make of Matisse Tell's performance? How do you lift a striker's confidence when he's in a bad run? He said, I don't think he's had a bad run, if I'm honest. He played striker against West Ham, which I think he did quite well. Worked very hard for him to arrive in the right areas, which I think he did today. In terms of performance, that was a step up. Then we can look at the end product to score the goal, but the performance to arrive in the box, I was very happy with. Just close with the first ball from Brennan, ready for the cutback. Second half got in there on 2 other good situations, had a nice shot. I think it was a step up in terms of performance. I think Frank means the shot he had in the first half, which was definitely his best bit of play. Reminds me of Jermaine Defoe. Very short backlift and gets a lot of power on his shot. That's actually, I think, where we've got to get Matisse Tell into more positions, probably around the 18, 19, 20-yard mark. Get some shots away, probably from the inside left position. I thought Frank there was a little bit, probably for the first time, trying to work on Matisse Tell's confidence with that answer. Yes, he did get himself into good positions. His movement is good, but realistically, we need the ball to stick with him more in the final third, and we need him to be making the goalkeeper make saves from those cutbacks. But I think he knows, like I said earlier, he's lacking confidence, so he has to, he can't throw him under the bus. He was also asked, you spoke about how Matisse Tell can play on the left and centrally. Could you tell us what you think his main qualities are that he gives the team? He said, I think you can see that his ability in the game to arrive in the box and the pace he's got in terms of running in behind and getting into the right areas, I think is good. I think his pressing ability is very good. I like the way he works in that situation. And then I think his link-up play is something that's a good level, but he can get even better. So that's more like it, isn't it? Talking about hold-up play, link-up play, being able to keep it in the final third. Frank was then asked, you moved Palhinha to defence and Archie Gray into midfield. Are we saying now that Archie's position in midfield is something for him going forward? He said, I think Archie can play centre-back and right-back, but I see him more as a midfielder, and I'd like to see him again in that position today, which is why I picked him there. I was confident. I was happy that I was backed in that feeling about João as a centre-back. So, yeah, talking there about being backed, I think, by his coaching staff, and I'm sure they're happy with that decision because Palhinha did a really good job. He was then asked about Luca Williams-Barnett, the young 16-year-old wonder kid who made his debut last night, the 900th player to play for Tottenham Hotspur in terms of his legacy number. He said, I'm very happy with Luca. I think it's always a pleasure to be part of a young player's debut, so happy with that. He was asked, he's only 16, but others are playing in the Premier League at that age. Does it feel like football's getting younger these days? He said, yeah, I think definitely over the last few years, the focus on the talent development and academies across the world is so big. So the talent pool is bigger. There are these talents coming through that are younger and younger. But one thing is the debut when you're 16. The next step, and it's much more important, is how Luca or other players take those next steps forward. It's very tough to keep going and then get into the first team as a regular player. But the first step is very important. I think that's good, keeping Luca Williams-Barnett's feet on the ground. What I liked about him, though, similar to Mikey Moore when he first started coming into the first team, wants to get on the ball and then just drive forward. No fear. Drive forward. He didn't really get much from it yesterday. I think he won one corner maybe, or maybe a throw-in, having driven at his man. But that kind of, fearlessness, I think, is lovely to see. And the Spurs fans loved seeing him on the pitch for the first team. He was asked again a bit more about Mathys Tel. He was really the main talking point of this press conference. He said, you talked about how you're impressed with the way he was getting into the box. Is it just a classic case for a striker who needs one to go in off his backside? He said, yeah, I think that's fair to say. Of course, he really wanted to score and do well. Unfortunately, as a striker, that's what you get measured on. It's exactly the same as a keeper. You get measured. You can't throw it into your own goal. But I think, as I said before, the overall performance was a real step forward for Mathys. And of course, I really wanted him to score as well, because that would make it an even better story. All right, guys, just before I go into some transfer news and other news from Tottenham Hotspur, including that investment yesterday from a big Tory donor, once again, please do give this video a like if you're watching on YouTube. Do subscribe to the channel if you're not already a subscriber for daily Tottenham Hotspur news and transfer views as well. Also, like I said at the top, I've been nominated for 2 football content awards, really the most prestigious of the football content awards going round. So please, if you like my stuff, do give me a vote. Details how are in the description box below. Just go to those 2 awards on the drop down from the Football Content Awards website and click on Barnaby Slater, the Spurred On podcast. Really appreciate all your support. Okay, more rumours yesterday that Spurs are still interested in bringing Savinho from Man City. He scored a decent goal yesterday against Huddersfield in the League Cup. Go and check that out if you haven't already. Spurs also understood to be preparing a move for Al Hilal and Portuguese midfielder Ruben Neves, who used to play for Wolves. He's keen on a return to Europe, with Thomas Frank looking to bolster his midfield. I spoke about this a little bit last night in my pre-watch-along show on YouTube. I wonder if we're looking at players like Neves and Conor Gallagher, if maybe Rodrigo Bentancur has said to Spurs, I'm just going to actually let my contract run down in the summer and then look at what the other options are. So Tottenham weighing up their options as well. Tottenham do want to make João Palhinha's loan deal permanent, and he is keen to stay at Spurs as well. That deal currently at 30 million euros, but you can guarantee that Vinay, if he's taken anything from Daniel Levy, will try and negotiate that sum down. Thomas Frank was asked this week on the idea that Harry Kane could return to Tottenham. He said, personally, I don't think he'll do it right now. If I'm honest, he'll probably stay at Bayern and continue performing well. But if he wants to join us, he's more than welcome. And also Thomas Frank provide an injury update on Decky Kulusevski. He said, of course, he's a top player. I always liked him when I saw him from afar. He's a key player for us, a key player for me. But instead of putting an exact month on his return, I just want him back as soon as possible. The medical guys and Decky are working very hard on that. There's a good chance we'll see him back in action before the end of the year. Just stats on Pedro Porro, who made his first appearance last night as captain for the club. In terms of his performance in the Premier League this season compared to other fullbacks, defensive duels won, top progressions, possessions won, top progressive actions first, crosses first, forward passes first, long passes completed first, progressive passes completed first, passes into the final third first, and passes into the penalty box first. So it's been an amazing start to the season for Pedro. If I was Spurs, get him signed up to a new contract now. Really show him that he can be a big part of this leadership going forward for Tottenham Hotspur. Thomas Frank was also asked this week about his relationship with Vinay Venkatesham, who, of course, is running things at Spurs now that Daniel Levy has left. He said, I really like working together with Vinay. Obviously, I didn't know him before I joined Spurs. From day one, he came across like a fantastic person, a person that I think understands people and is very approachable. As far as I've learned and his experience, his processes, he's calm. He listens, and from that, he takes good, calm decisions. That's a strength in this sometimes emotional football world. He's also asked about Don Fabio Paratici. Of course, this week had his suspended jail sentence meted out to him, but he is now available potentially to work at Spurs full-time. No definite reports on whether that's going to happen. But Thomas said this, Fabio is a consultant. Of course, I speak with him. I spoke to him mainly in the transfer window while he was part of that group that worked and dealt with transfers. I've got a good relationship with him. Also, some news this week that Wales have held talks with Mikey Moore about switching international allegiance from England. He's obviously on loan at Rangers at the moment. No rush for him to make a decision on his international future. as you can make a decision whenever you want when you haven't played a competitive game for the national team. But for me, if I'm Mikey Moore, I stay with England, your English mate. And then finally, just some news on that investment into the club. Lord Ashcroft, a Tory donor, he's been a minority investor in Spurs for years. His son, Andrew, has bought £100 million worth of shares in the club and owns 3.4% of the club. Some reports that he's actually bought those shares off his father. So maybe that's kind of succession planning within their company, and their family. That's according to the Guardian Sport. But that's, £100 million come into the club, or certainly gone into Lord Ashcroft. Be interesting to see what that means. For me, my instinct is that probably means that they feel that the club is likely to be sold sometime soon, and they want to keep those shares within the family so that they get a good deal out of any potential sale to a Middle Eastern consortium or an American consortium. Anyway, guys, thank you so much. Apologies I didn't do a post-match review last night. I just thought there probably wouldn't be that much interest after a pretty standard 3-0 win in the League Cup, so I do more of a deep dive into it today. Thanks so much for watching. Do give the video a like on YouTube if you haven't already. Do subscribe to the channel. Do give me a vote in those 2 categories for the Football Content Awards if you like my stuff. I really appreciate your support, guys. Got such a great community amongst you, and so much engagement every single day on the YouTube, and I do read all of those comments, guys, so keep them coming. And also join me on BigUp so you can follow me for the watch along on Saturday against Wolves. All details again in the description box below. But most importantly, enjoy your Thursdays. Come on, you Spurs.